at you. Are you ready, Congressman?
I'm ready.
We're right back at you. What do you think about the $8.5 trillion deficit, and what should we do about it?
Well, it's the $8.5 trillion deficit, and obviously since the Republicans have been in power, it's gotten worse. And there are some of the things that have happened, and I'm not offering them as excuses we're in the middle of war, and we did have what was the equivalent of a massive disaster down on our southeast coast with Katrina, and so that added a great deal to the national debt. However, with that said, for me to suggest that I am satisfied with what the Republicans have done to bring down the level of deficit spending would be not accurate at all. I've been one of the contrarians in the Republican caucus trying to make sure we do reduce spending where we can. One of the reasons I talk about illegal immigration is we are so much in debt. How can we possibly borrow money from our children to pay for people who come here illegally? But there's all sorts of other programs as well that should just be eliminated, so that we have subsidies to big business, which Jim knows about and Democrats complain about. I'm for eliminating those subsidies to big business, but raising taxes alone is not the answer. That's one of the biggest issues between the parties. We have permitted the Republicans for the private sector to keep about $1 trillion that would have been taxed away over the last 10 years. I believe that if we would have taxed that away, our deficit would be just as high because the spending would have gone up. And it's better to have a low tax strategy to bring down the deficit and then to try to get control and cut government spending rather than taxing your way out of it, which actually brings down the economic growth and makes the deficit worse. So I think that we've got to handle it responsibly. We can't tax our way and taking money from everybody else. The Democrat plan would take $2,000 more for every family who makes $50,000 a year. That's ridiculous.
Thank you, Congressman. The same question to you, Mr. Brandt. What do you think we should do about our $8.5 trillion deficit?
Well, first of all, what my opponent said about the war being a factor, it doesn't even play into it. That's off budget. Not one nickel of it goes toward that. I've been studying the budgets pretty carefully the last 6 months, and they're the weirdest accounting procedures I've ever seen. I don't understand how they get away with it. But that's not part of that $8.5 trillion.
No, you're wrong. That's not part of the budget.
Congressman, I'm sorry. I understand. You just hold your comments. You'll have a chance for a closing comment. Thank you.
It's not part of the $8.5 trillion. But what I'm saying here is that we've had a Republican Congress, Republican president for 6 years, and that's what's made it shoot straight up like this. So there isn't any Democrats or any of this stuff that you can say about that problem right now. And all we've heard is how Democrats are tax and spend. Well, Republicans are borrow and spend. And that's just what's happening. We don't have any Republicans standing up to the administration to stop it. And I think that the answer to it is campaign finance reform. We need clean campaigns so these drug companies that's the first step to getting that under control. But then we've got to have a pay-as-you-go policy just like all the families do. And just like the Republicans used to say they wanted until they got into power and had control of the money for themselves. So that's